And what is advertising revenue? Money. And what is money? It's capitalism.
Why? Because it gets ratings.
So it's completely hypocritical. It's all bullshit.
And what is advertising revenue? Money. And what is money?
Oh, and while we're on the point, if you think that the BBC is objective, you've been living under a rock for the last 40 years. The BBC is scandalous. It's scandalous that you are forced, basically, to pay to own a television, and the money goes to them. And they use that money to basically brainwash you. It's a disgrace. And it's force, because you get fined if you don't pay it. You can get banged up if you don't pay it. It's a disgrace. It's honestly one of the most cancerous pieces of infrastructure in the Western world. It's terrible. And I did a BBC show. So believe me, I know what goes on behind the scenes. I know what goes on behind the scenes. And I can't go into detail because I had a contract, but the agenda is outrageous. It's outrageous.
So believe me.
We can probably whisper about it at the bar. Mainstream media. It's not objective.
It's outrageous.
It's for ratings. And the structure is for shock value, anti-system, to get ratings, to get advertising dollars, which is the system. So it's totally hypocritical, and it's a waste of your time. You've got to seek out alternative sources. Now, I can't sit here and give you a list of alternative sources because it's changing all the time. You've just got to be smart enough these days to go online and consume what is giving you facts.
So it's totally hypocritical, and it's a waste of your time.
One thing is absolutely for certain, okay? And this is the principle of hierarchy, okay?
You've just got to be smart enough these days.
One thing is absolutely for certain. If you can't accept facts, you will never be wealthy.
One thing is absolutely for certain.
Seek out facts and accept a fact as a fact. Don't waste your time. Mainstream media will just pollute you. It'll brainwash you. It just creates a massive distraction. Just always think in the background, what's global GDP going to be next year?
Mainstream media will just pollute.
Well, it's going to be $81.97 trillion. So why is that celebrity chef telling me what I should eat?
Just always think in the background, what's global GDP going to be next year?
Why is that newsreader putting a slant on this news story?
It's going to be $81.97 trillion.
Why did they say that certain word to try and make it look like a negative when really it's a positive? It's all irrelevant. It's all totally irrelevant. If GDP is going to be 81.97 trillion in 2018, there's nothing mainstream media can do about that. How much do you want? That's the question.
It's all totally irrelevant. If GDP is
Just seek out the alternative media and the facts. Because you need freedom of thought and objectivity. And it seeps into all areas of your life. So just seek out those sources. Self-determination as well. You know, propaganda that's pushed by advertisers, especially in, say, the debt market. It's the inversion narrative. They're offering you something that isn't a solution and telling you it's a solution. So the opposite of a truth is what? A lie. It's not the solution. And all these traps are laid everywhere for you. And if you're stupid enough to walk into them, good luck.
So the opposite of a truth is what?
What about role models?
A lie.
We live in an insta-scam world.
All these traps are laid everywhere for you.
We came up with that today, the VIP lunch. So in the interview, we discussed celebrity, okay? And this is a kind of a bit of a nasty slide. The youth today, I don't want to sound like an old man harping on about the youth of today. Celebrity, in terms of your own objectives, they're basically just false idols, and they're commoditized, and they're disposable commodities. Who's paying for it? You, the consumer. You buy the products from the companies that advertise, that get on the channels or whatever the channels are, that get the ratings, that have the celebrity on it. Once the celebrity is gone, once the celebrity is not getting the ratings, they're disposed of. They're totally disposable. And by the way, the vast majority of them are not rich. You know, it's like 5 years from now, where will these people be? 10 years from now. Celebrities, the best celebrities, have flashes of wealth, but they've got no idea what to do with it, and it always disappears. So that's in the best case scenario. These people are false idols. They're not role models. In fact, most of them have absolutely horrific personal lives. And the vast majority, in the best case scenario, when they make a lot of money, they blow it up anyway in some way. They always screw it up in some way. If your objective is becoming wealthy, to have self-determination, be your own person, live life on your own terms, and have the freedom, you're the opposite of what they actually are. Because what's happening with them is they're just being used and pushed around and being told what to do. They're commodities. They're disposable commodities. So if you're misinformed, generally, in terms of information in the world, because you're consuming, say, mainstream media and constantly taking celebrity as mantra. And you genuinely believe that a singing voice is the most important thing in the world. Or a mediocre acting talent. You know, someone's got the ability to smile at the click of a finger when the camera goes on. If you think that's really important, you need help. Like, you need serious help. It's not important. And those people shouldn't, when they're standing on TV, virtue signaling, telling the whole world about how they should live and what they should be doing. They're doing it for a reason. They're doing it to stay relevant. They don't believe any of it. They're just talking shit. And you're getting sucked into it, and you end up creating and accepting a false idol. So try to stay away from it, especially you young'uns. The older people here today know exactly what I'm talking about because they've seen it in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. It's all just gone. It doesn't exist anymore. And what's happening right now in the celebrity world, it'll just disappear and it'll be gone. It's never permanent. It's all transitory. It's all transitory bullshit. I mentioned earlier this number, the 15.5 million people in the world that have the ability to go to the bank and withdraw $1 million in cash. They're your role models if you want to be wealthy. Not necessarily billionaires, these guys. Not mentioned in the interview was how to find these people. These people don't want to be contacted. They don't go on WhatsApp and just say, yeah, anyone can speak to me at any moment, whenever they want. If they did that, they'd be dropping all the principles that made them wealthy in the first place. Plus, you know, if you meet these people and you do somehow manage to get their contact details or whatever, do you honestly think you're the only person sending them a message?
They don't.
Like they're receiving hundreds of messages a week,
Anyone can speak to me at any.
and they don't have any time to speak to anybody. Or if they do, they choose not to speak to them because they just want a nice life.
Principles that made them wealthy in the first place.
Like you won't believe how many messages I get on LinkedIn per week of business ideas, people begging for money. It's unbelievable.
You do somehow manage to get their
And they think I'm actually going to reply.
Do you honestly think you're the only person sending them?
Like I just look at the first sentence and just whatever.
Like they're receiving hundreds of messages a week.
The true hierarchy
Speak to anybody.
of role models in this world that we live in today
They just want a nice life.
are the 15.5 million people.
You won't believe how many.
So this is if your objective is to become wealthy. If your objective is not to be wealthy, then they're obviously not your role models.
It's unbelievable.
The real hierarchy of role models in the real world that we live in today
Look at the first sentence and just.
is the 15.5 million people that you've never heard of.
The true hierarchy of role models in this world that we live in today.
Because they're all liquid, rich, and they can do whatever they want.
So this is if your objective is to become wealthy. If your objective is not,
They value their time,
then they're obviously
they value their freedom, they have buying power,
hierarchy of role models.
they know how to analyze risk,
In the world that we live in today.
and generally speaking, the vast majority of them are happy. Much happier than people that don't have the $1 million of cash.
Because they're all liquid, rich, and they can do whatever they want.
It's a lie to say that they're not.
They value their time. They
So,
value their freedom.
sitting down with these people
They have buying power.
and picking their brains. Do you understand the amount of times I get a message per week that says,
And generally speaking,
I'm dropping by Singapore in a few weeks.
are happy.
Have you got time for a coffee? No, I don't actually.
Than people that don't have the
No.
$1 million of cash.
Or a message starts off with, I'd like to pick your brains about something. You kidding me? I'm like, no,
So, sitting down with these people.
I'm busy, I'm doing stuff that's important. Now that message might be important to them, but it's not important to the person who's receiving it. Like these messages are just, I find it ridiculous that someone expects you to reply. All these people that you don't know or you haven't heard of who, there's 15.5 million of them in the world with 5.5 million in the US, right? They value their time. You're not going to be able to sit down with them. Now, it's very, very different to have a role model where you can see someone visibly online or in media or whatever, and you can emulate their habits and their behaviors, and you understand their life story and what they've done to get from where they've come from to where they are. That's very, very different to having a mentor where you actually sit down with people and they teach you everything they know. That's very, very different. If you want people to be your mentors, it's probably going to cost you money. Because it's going to cost them a fortune
Very, very different.
in opportunity cost to just sit down with you for
Actually sit down
a
with
couple of hours.
and they teach you everything they know.
So
That's very, very different.
just understand the distinction between a role model and a real mentor. And don't forget, we do live in an insta-scam world
Just sit down with you for
where pretty much all the wealthy people that you see online, they're not actually that wealthy.
just understand the distinction between a role model and a real mentor.
Now, if you manage to find someone who is,
We do live in an insta
and they actually have
where pretty much
all the things that we've discussed today, the principles, the 10 secrets, and they're wealthy. And they've actually got the time to do it.
now if you manage to find
What are they going to teach you?
and they
Well, they know what made them successful.
all the things that we've discussed today,
It was doing all the things that we talked about today.
secrets, and they're wealthy.
So the 5 principles:
They've actually got the time
acceptance,
to do it.
self-determination, freedom, risk IQ, hierarchy.
Well, they know what made them
And they're going to teach it to you. But they know ultimately that they can't push you over the line. You have to do it yourself.
acceptance, self-determination,
So what do?
risk IQ,
They teach you all the principles, teach you all the good habits and secrets that you need to have. Having those 10 secrets that we looked at in the video, having the 5 principles behind it. They'll teach you all of that stuff, but ultimately they know that at some point they just have to let you go.
teach you all the good habits,
And you either swim or you sink.
having those 10
And that's the beauty of the system we live in.
having the
It's
5
available
principles behind it.
if you want it.
They'll teach you all of that stuff.
If you don't want it, you get 0.
That at some point,
If you want
they
it,
just have to let you go.
you have a chance.
And you either
And
sink or you sink.
the good role models and the good mentors, those 15.5 million people that
It's
exist
available
that you've never heard of,
if you want it.
they will teach you that,
You get zero.
but they know at the end of the day, you have to do it.
You have a chance. And the good role models and the good mentors.
And you can make the world a better place by just creating a great product and a great service
Never heard of.
that beats everyone else.
They will teach you that.
You can change the world by living in the capitalist system. You can't change the world if you choose to live outside it and complain about it all day long for the rest of your life.
Creating a great product and a great service.
It's self-destructive.
You change the world by
So-
living in the capitalist system.
These 5 principles
You can't change the world if you choose to live outside.
lead into everything.
All day long for the rest of your life.
They underpin everything in those 10 secrets
Self-destructive.
to financial success in the video.
So, these 5 principles
Now, if you want to come into the Institute
lead into everything.
and you want to take education in the stock market, forex market, and options market,
To financial success.
we do mentoring programs as well. I don't do a lot of them anymore. We've got mentors all over the world, guys who have worked in the markets for years. Those guys will do as good a job as I can do in terms of mentoring you. That's why they get hired. They get hired on the principle that they are as good, if not better than I am, and I just run the company.
We've got mentors all over the world
And if you really want to
for years.
get mentored
Those
intensely,
as good as job as
we do a vacation program in Thailand, and the next one's in,
principle.
well, the next one that you can participate in is in October.
I just run the company.
I'm actually going next week to Thailand for the next one for 10 days. So you spend 10 days with us, and we teach you intensely
Vacation program in
how to make money in the financial markets.
well, the next one that you
And then you also get 12 weeks after on the phone.
I'm actually going next week to Thailand for the next
And then we have to stick to that principle.
10 days.
We show you how to do it, but then you've got to go off and do it yourself.
Intensely how to make
Otherwise, you will just never do it.
and then you also get 12 weeks after on the phone.
So guys, that's the 5 principles that underpin the 10 secrets.
Stick to that principle.
I'm going to be at the bar.
Do it, but then you
Hope you enjoyed the content, and thanks for coming.
Blackjar, what are you doing?
I love you. Thank you so much.
Whoa, James, what the frickity frick? Whoa!
The whole gifting subs thing, that is magical.
Don't overcomplicate your trading. Hey guys and gals, my name is Jason Bond, and I'm the founder of Jason Bond Picks. Easy is good if it works, and it has for me and for my millionaire students. That's why I use and teach only 3 trading patterns. And I've taught it to celebrity clients like Jose Canseco and the fighter Frank Mir. And as a former elementary school teacher, I know how to teach so that it's simple and easy to grasp. But I also know how important the money can be. We were in nearly $250,000 worth of debt. Then I committed to tackling out that debt, and I got serious about trading. With the 3 simple trading patterns, I changed our lives for good. And it can work for you too, and I'm teaching them in a free, upcoming online trading. You'll have to ask yourself one question. What would you do with the new income? Whatever it is, I don't care. It's gonna be awesome, and you can achieve it once you've learned and mastered these 3, just 3 trading patterns. To join me in this awesome training, click here now.
He's the world's most successful moneymaker. Warren Buffett has more money than the gross domestic products of more than half the world's countries. On the latest count, he has $40 billion.
I think you guys are earning your money.
And he made it all by simply investing in the right companies.
Some people are better at certain things than others. You know, there's a lot of people who can sing a lot better than I can. I'm better at making money than most people.
If you'd trusted him to look after $10,000 for you when he started out, you'd have a cool $50 million now.
This was one hell of a wallop of money.
Everyone who's anyone wants to be seen with him. But Buffett himself remains charmingly down to earth. The world's super rich have often found themselves reviled of late. And Mr. Buffett has his doubts about them too.
The idea that the people that move money around are some favored class strikes me as getting pretty far away from where we should be.
Buffett is different. He's built a huge business empire and has developed his own special way of running it.
He's a unique leader. I can't think of anyone close.
What you see is what you get. Absolutely 100%.
Warren Buffett has given me a rare chance to explore his world. I want to find out how he makes his money and whether he is the acceptable face of the filthy rich. I've arrived in Omaha, in the midwestern state of Nebraska, a city 1,200 miles from Wall Street that grew up as a center for the railroad and meatpacking industries. Today, it's home to less than 500,000 people. My destination is this nondescript block. Warren Buffett has agreed to see me, and I've already started picking up some clues about him. Well, I've got a meeting with Mr. Buffett in his own headquarters here up on the 14th floor of this building. And if you want a measure of the kind of guy he is, you should hear this email he sent us. He can't give us very long, he explains, because from an actuarial standpoint, I only have about 4,000 days left on this earth, and I'm trying to keep various activities in proper proportion. It's a perfectly rational calculation, but not one that most people would perform, I think. Mr. Buffett runs a company called Berkshire Hathaway. It's worth $150 billion. Yet it rents just one floor of offices. Mr. Buffett isn't one for extravagance. So this is the recreation.
This is it. This is it. This is our wine cellar. But, feel free to have a Coke.
Thank you very much. Berkshire Hathaway invests in other companies that employ thousands of people. Buffett personally owns a quarter of the enterprise. So it really is literally, this is the office, is it? I mean, it doesn't seem very big somehow.
Well, we have a full floor. I've been here 47 years. Moved in on January 1st of 1962. And gradually we've built it up to where we now have 20 employees here. We have about 240,000 around the world. And this is world headquarters, despite the fact of it doesn't look like it.
This is Buffett's team. Yes, the whole team running the $150 billion empire. I've seen smaller companies who have more staff to look after the coffee.
He has a couple of secretaries, and he has some accounting people and a bond trader, and not much more than that. I've never seen anything like it, and in my experience of looking at dozens of businesses, he has almost no support or help.
Buffett has a personal assistant who fends off endless inquiries.
Mr. Buffett's office?
And according to him, he just sits in his office reading all day.
One moment, please.
Now, there's no computer on your desk.
I've never had a computer in there. I've never had a calculator in there. And I've never had a stock ticker in there.
From here, Buffett makes investments and buys companies, working his financial magic. Once a year, Omaha awakes. There's an invasion of Berkshire Hathaway shareholders. 35,000 of them make the pilgrimage to Buffett's annual general meeting. Woodstock for capitalists, it's often called.
Good morning, everyone. The meeting is being held in the arena at the far end of the hall.
Anyone can buy Berkshire shares and buy themselves a slice of Buffett's success.
Talk about popular capitalism, eh?
It's not your usual company meeting. Along with this massive gathering, there are special events at local businesses owned by Berkshire Hathaway. This ice cream parlour enjoys its busiest night of the year, and here I find out these people are not just shareholders, they're disciples.
He has common sense. How many people in this world have common sense right now?
I'm a college student, and even I have this perspective of him as like a can do no wrong type person.
Well, he is as he appears. He's a regular guy.
Well, he's the greatest investor of all time.
Along with ice cream, you can buy books about the man they call the Oracle of Omaha and try to glean the secret of his success. At the shareholder meeting, Buffett is surrounded by crowds and cameras.
I feel a little lonely. I mean,
the life you'd expect for a celebrity billionaire. But away from the spotlight, unlike many of the other super rich, he lives in a very different world. The real world. Take his house. He bought it for $31,000 more than 50 years ago. It sits on the corner of a pleasant enough residential neighborhood in Omaha.
Well, I'm happy there. I mean, I'd move if I thought I'd be happier someplace else. How would I improve my life by having 10 houses around the globe? I mean, if I'd wanted to become, a superintendent of housing or something of the sort, I could have gone into that as a profession, but I do not want to manage 10 houses, and I really don't even want somebody else doing it for me, and I don't know why the hell I'd be happier.
Not even the biggest house in the street.
I'm warm in the winter, I'm cool in the summer, and it's convenient for me. I can't imagine having a better house.
It's the same story with his car. Now, I think in about the year that he was declared the richest man in the world and wanted you to go and buy a car for him, Is it true that you procured a car cheaply because it had hail
damage? Yes. Yeah, I've bought his last 3 or 4 cars. And you have to understand, he keeps cars until I tell him, this is getting embarrassing, time for a new car. Now, they don't look hail damaged because they fix them, but because they've been hail damaged, they're cheaper. So, you know, what better deal can you get?
Buffett does have some super rich friends. Closest of all to him is Bill Gates. This year, Gates is the richest person in the world. Last year, it was Buffett. But they've both been at the top of the rich list for years. It's not a touchy subject, apparently.
Oh, we definitely joke about it. You know, depending on his position, I'll usually try to send him something humorous. It relates to that. I remember he was all the way down at 8 one time. I sent him a lucky 8 ball.
Gates was introduced to Buffett, a man 25 years older than him with no interest in computers. But their friendship quickly developed out of a shared passion for business and bridge. Sharon Osberg often plays and travels with them.
It is like a father-son, and I think Bill will tell you that too, like a father-son relationship. Bill is very interested in learning from Warren. And they're clearly on the same, on the same intellectual plane. So when they get going, those brains get firing. It's really quite something.
They both have simple tastes and a love of junk food.
Warren has never ramped up his ability to consume. You know, as long as a cheeseburger doesn't get too expensive and the price of Coke is less than a couple bucks, Warren's going to be fine.
Now, when you have some time with Warren Buffett, what do you do? Well, you try to work out how he does it. Buffett really is different. While the guys on Wall Street like to make a quick buck, Buffett prefers to take it more slowly.
They kept telling me to back up. I thought the guy was
to invest. And that's the first lesson in the Buffett primer. Invest. Don't speculate. Well, let us talk about making money. Is there a meaningful distinction to be drawn between making money out of investment and making money out of speculation? It's always a bet, isn't it? It's always a gamble.
No, it isn't a gamble. There is a real distinction. Basically, it's subjective, but an investment attitude, you look to the asset itself to produce the return. So if I buy a farm and I expect it to produce $80 an acre for me in terms of its revenue from corn and soybeans, and it cost me $600. I'm looking at the return from the farm itself. I'm not looking at the price of the farm every day or every week or every year. On the other hand, if I buy a stock and I hope it goes up next week, to me that's pure speculation.
Other investors look at prices every minute, hoping they'll go up. But all that effort, and not one is as rich as Buffett. To help him invest, Warren has a right-hand man. He's not like the Wall Street guys either. He's 85 years old, for one thing. Charlie Munger. I asked him to give me some details, important details, as to what they like to invest in. As it happened, they have a checklist, and Charlie spelt it out for me, item by item.
We have to deal in things that we're capable of understanding, and then once we're over that filter, we have to have a business with some intrinsic characteristics that give it a durable competitive advantage. And then, of course, we would vastly prefer a management in place with a lot of integrity and talent. And finally, no matter how wonderful it is, it's not worth an infinite price. So we have to have a price that makes sense. That's a very simple set of ideas.
Simple indeed. With this checklist, Munger and Buffett have found some great investment opportunities. Hidden gems? Overlooked by the clever investors on Wall Street?
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with
well, hardly hidden. Take Coca-Cola. great marketing over the decades had made it the world's best-known brand. A good product, a good team. In the 80s, it ticked all Buffett's boxes.
What really counts is how the Coca-Cola company does. And that really is not a bet. It's an analysis of the fundamental earning power of the asset and looking to that earning power to justify the price you pay.
On that basis, Coke shares seemed excellent value by a comfortable margin. So Buffett and Munger spent $1 billion buying them.
For many, many months, we were buying as much Coca-Cola as we could buy, roughly a third of the volume trading, every day for months. We were very aggressive in buying into Coca-Cola.
Within 4 years, their investment had quadrupled in value, but they didn't sell, and today they still own Coke shares worth $10 billion. They invested in other big brands too, like American Express and Walt Disney. And unlike most investors, when they bought, they really went for it. They put a third of their assets into Coca-Cola. It's not recommended for ordinary savers, but would-be Warren Buffett should remember, you don't have to diversify. You break one of the cardinal rules of investment, diversification. I mean, everybody's told, don't put all your eggs in one basket, spread them as widely as possible. You actually do sometimes, and put enormous numbers of eggs in one basket, don't you?
I stick with what I know. If somebody owns 50 stocks, can they really like the one they rank as number 50 as well as the one they rank as number 1? Can they know it as well? I don't think so.
However Buffett does it, it works. He's grown his investment fund by 20% a year. 20% in 1 year is good, but as an average over decades, it's unheard of. And it snowballs. $1,000 put into Berkshire shares in 1965 is now worth over $5 million. Meet Dick Holland. He's living proof of the Buffett formula. He trusted Buffett with his money in the early 60s, and Warren has made him rich. Very rich.
What I have today, is beyond my wildest dreams. I expected, to do decently and enjoy life and all that kind of thing, but this was one hell of a wallop of money.
Holland is so rich that he's been able to give away tens of millions. In recognition, Omaha's huge new art center is named after him and his wife.
Well, I tried to thank Warren once. I said, really thank you for making me rich, And he said, oh, I didn't make you rich. You didn't sell.
We spoke to Dick Holland, and he's incredibly grateful. I mean, it must be very nice to have people who are that grateful. But he says you sort of don't accept the thanks that he would like to give you.
Well, I know he's grateful, but I'm grateful to him. I mean, he went with me when I was a 26 or 27-year-old kid that looked about 20 and behaved like he was 15. I mean, so he bet on me at a time when a lot of people wouldn't have bet on me. So I'm grateful to him. I mean, it's mutual.
Buffett's down-to-earth approach is beguiling, but can making so much money really be as simple as he makes it sound?
It's simple, but it is not easy. He has spent nearly 80 years building up a mental file of everything that he knows about companies and businesses. He works at it all the time, and he doesn't really like to admit that.
So how did a middle-class boy from the Midwest turn himself into the richest man in the world? Buffett was born in Omaha, only a few miles from where he meets his shareholders today. His father was a stockbroker, which was tough in the Depression years. Later, Howard Buffett was elected to Congress, and the family moved to Washington, where young Warren discovered money-making.
He had several paper routes, and he had a used golf ball business. He had a chain of pinball machines for a while in a barber shop. I mean, I probably left things out, but he was always doing these sorts of things.
Buffett had a newspaper round in this rich apartment block. He built it up until, with his other businesses, he was earning more money than his teachers. But the young Warren had his adolescent troubles.
I had all these friends in Omaha, and everything was going wonderfully, and then all of a sudden we ended up in Washington, D.C. So I behaved very badly.
Buffett got into the wrong crowd and stole golf balls and even clubs from a department store on this site.
I didn't need the things that I was shoplifting when I was 12 or 13, but I was just doing it out of the show I was unhappy with the world for a while.
At heart, Buffett was a law-abiding citizen. From the age of 13, he completed his own tax return. He was already thinking big.
I remember one time when he was about, maybe 16 or 17, and he said to me, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. I think it was 30. But he told me this, and I thought, yeah, he probably will be, but I didn't think anything of it, kind of, because that's just who he was.
When he left school, Buffett headed for New York. Not to Wall Street, but to study. His tutor was Ben Graham, author of a best-selling book, The Intelligent Investor. He's been Buffett's guru ever since, not least for introducing him to someone called Mr. Market.
Well, Mr. Market is in Chapter 8 of The Intelligent Investor, probably the most important thing I've ever read in my life. Very simple concept. It says the market is there to serve you and not to instruct you.
Imagine Mr. Market is the man you do business with. You can buy or sell from him any day of the year. But he has unpredictable moods. Sometimes his prices are too high or too low. And that gives you a chance to make money.
So in the stock market, you get this wonderful opportunity to deal with this crazy, psychotic partner called Mr. Market, and he does it with thousands